I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope everyone is doing well out there. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Friday evening. Welcome to Paranormal Odyssey Live. Got a great one lined up for you guys today. Got Mr. Al from the Bronxville Paranormal Society coming back for round 3. Going to talk about some Dogman incidents or encounters that they've experienced. Before we get to that, got a couple other things lined up. I want to get started real quick. If you have not done so, hit that subscribe button. I sure would appreciate that very much. If you have had an encounter, would like to come on and share it with me on an episode, love to talk to you about that. Shoot me an email. You can get me at WayneParanormalWorldProductions.com. You guys got any questions tonight for Al? Please feel free to send those over. If you do so, put them in all caps, please. This makes it easier to see them and for me to get to them. I say it every week. I'll say it again. If I don't see a question, it's because I didn't. If I don't ask your question, it's because I didn't see it. If a little bit of time goes by, I haven't asked it, type it out again. But put it in all caps, please. And I want to invite everyone to head over to the website. Check out ParanormalWorldProductions.com. You can check out this show over there, as well as my sister shows, Sasquatch Odyssey and True Crime Odyssey. Couple of really good shows over there as well that Brian has put together. Done a great job on those. Speaking of Mr. Brian, I got a surprise for everyone. Got somebody that wanted to jump on and say hello before we got started.
What's up, everybody? What's going on, Wayne?
Hey, man. Yeah, having a good time. Good time. How's it going with you?
Good, man. I appreciate you giving me a couple of minutes at the beginning of the show. So for everybody who follows me on social media, I hopped on a little while ago and said I was going to come over here and talk a little bit about a new person that we're adding to the Paranormal World Productions family. And that is Lisa, in the form of a producer for the show, the live shows on your side and the Paranormal Odyssey, as well as helping me out when I go live on the Sasquatch Odyssey side. And about 2 hours, I guess, before showtime, we get a message from Lisa, which is a good thing for her, that it is her anniversary, her wedding anniversary, and her husband comes home and surprises her with this fantastic New Orleans trip for the weekend and said, hey, pack a bag. We're out of here in 30 minutes. So Lisa's not going to be here tonight, but we'll do a formal introduction when Lisa actually gets to join us, hopefully next Friday on your live show. But she's got an extensive background in television and film production. She's worked on tons of things like Nashville and other shows. We'll get a little bit more into that when Lisa joins us next week. But I just wanted to let everybody know that she was going to be joining us and helping you out in the live shows, doing some moderating and answering some questions, and just joining you live on the show as a support role, as a producer, because I think that's really important for us to all do. You've done that for me a couple of times, which made a huge difference in my first couple of live shows. So thank you for that. And that's one of the things that makes a big difference on everybody's show. So Lisa will hopefully be joining us, like I said, next Friday. And hopefully she'll have an amazing time in New Orleans with her husband. So I wish her the best. It's one of my favorite places on earth to go. We spent about 2 weeks there about 4 or 5 years ago, and we had a really good time. But we do have Tiffany in the chat tonight. I want to give Tiffany a shout out she's been a huge supporter of my show. She's a huge supporter of the Paranormal Odyssey. She's in the chat tonight monitoring the bots and the trolls. So everybody behave, because she's got that button. She will use that button tonight. But I really want to thank Tiff. She's phenomenal. She does a lot behind the scenes for all the shows, and she's been a huge support. So,
Tiffany actually put together a little video for me and shared it over on Instagram today for the Paranormal Odyssey. She did a great job. I didn't ask her to do that. She just took it upon herself. So I really appreciate it, and I did want to take a minute to welcome Tiffany as well and thank her for her help. She was a guest of yours, right, Brian?
Yeah. Her and her husband, Zach, were on the show, and they shared their interesting encounters. So if you guys want to hear that, head over to Sasquatch Odyssey and check it out. It was, 4, 5, 6 episodes back, but make sure you check that out. And she does a lot on TikTok for me. I've just sort of dipped my toe into the TikTok thing, and Tiffany's done a lot of introductions and things over there on TikTok. So really a lot of help for all the shows. And that's what it's really all about, is supporting everybody across the board, and just there's a ton of people that help behind the scenes, and they don't get anything for it. So the only thing we can give you is recognition and our thanks and our praise. So I definitely want to do that anytime we get a chance to do it. So,
yeah, Miss Sandra Popper, the godmother of Bigfoot talk show, says good job, Tiffany. So a big pat on the back there.
Yep, Sandra's always there. But I know this is your show. You got a great show lined up with Al, so I'm going to dip out of here and let you do your thing. I just wanted to come on, and hopefully I'll do the same thing next week, and we'll get to actually put a face with a name, and you guys can meet Lisa, and we'll do a formal introduction for her. But I just wanted to hop on and put in my 2 cents, and I appreciate the time. And I got to meet Al backstage, so I really am looking forward to hearing the show. I know he's got some amazing encounter stories. So.
Very good, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. When the boss says he wants to jump on, the boss jumps on. So
I appreciate it, man. Y'all have a great show.
All right, buddy. Be good. All right. All of that out of the way. Yeah, I really am disappointed that Lisa didn't get to get on tonight. Met her briefly last night. Brian and I talked to her on a little conference call, and she's got some experience, and she's going to be an incredible asset. So I'm excited to have her next week. But all of that out of the way, as y'all heard, got Mr. Al Santariga backstage. And I want to do something before I bring Al on. I want to play a little intro from his YouTube channel. Let me get it here. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to play this, and then after it gets done, I will bring Al on. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear that. Tiffany, can you hear that okay?
The unknown is ever present. Few dare tread it aside. The Bronxville Paranormal Society, in cooperation with the New York State UFO Project, the New York State Sasquatch Organization, and the North American Dogman Project, New York State Chapter, take you deep inside real cases, real experiences, and their reality. And now your host, Brian Bowden and Al Santariga.
All right, Al, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Wayne, how are you?
Doing well. Tell us a little bit about that intro. That was pretty cool, man. Who threw that together?
Oh, that's my crazy partner, Brian Bowden. He's my tech guru. When I started the team, I picked Brian as my tech guy because he's just phenomenal with technology, and I can't even turn a computer on. But he put that together. We used to do a monthly show, would be like the Bronxville Paranormal Society evidence review, and then every now and then we do like a once a month kind of show. We jump on and we just do a live show like you, and just either have friends come in, because we got so many friends that are into paranormal and every aspect of it. We'd have them come in, sit in, or we'd just take questions. We'd open up the phone lines and have people call and just interact with the audience. And we had a lot of fun doing it. The only problem is between Brian and myself, we're always in Facebook jail. So, we can't stay out of jail for some reason. But
imagine that.
Imagine
I have
that.
a hard time believing that, Al.
But it is what it is. But we were talking today, and we're going to get back in the swing of thing again. So, I look forward to getting back into the swing of things. We used to do 2 monthly meetings, one down in Westchester, South, New York, closer to New York City, and one up here by me. And COVID knocked all of that out of the box, and we never got back around to doing the live meetings. So we just decided to start doing, like a monthly show, or maybe bi-weekly, whatever it turned out to be.
Yeah. You've introduced me to Brian. Talked to him a little bit through Messenger, and we talked about getting him on the show. Gotta get that set up.
No, you're gonna love Brian. You're gonna love Brian. If you want to talk about theories and conjecture and speculation, Brian's got it all figured out. You're gonna love him.
Well, I'm glad somebody does, because I certainly don't.
No, I love him like a brother. I swear to God, we have so much fun together, and I miss him. He moved down to Florida on me, and that he'll be back up in the summer, and he came up in August for my birthday. He drove all the way up by himself just for my birthday, and I told him he was absolutely nuts.
Man.
But,
That's a good man right there.
I told him I wouldn't do it for him, but he came up, and he's part of the family. You know what I mean? And so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna love Brian. As a matter of fact, there's a Dogman encounter tonight that I was gonna mention, but I'm not gonna mention it. I'm gonna leave it for Brian to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying before, this is your 3rd time on the show. First time you came on and just kind of introduced yourself, ended up telling one of the best Bigfoot encounters I've ever listened to, from firsthand that experienced it. It was great. Ended up being in my intro.
I heard that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's a great encounter. Then the second time you came, you talked about a crazy night that you and Brian and one other person experienced doing
cameraman Bill. Yep.
Doing a paranormal investigation. And tonight, we're here to round it out with some Dogman stuff. Now, I can't wait to get into it. Now, people that have watched the show and followed me know how I feel about Dogman. I don't know what to make of Dogman. When I first got into the subject, I thought it was silly. I thought we have enough cryptids out there. What is this giant dog walking on 2 legs eating people? It just seemed far-fetched. And then the more you listen, the more I started to think, this sounds kind of like it could be a Bigfoot, a misidentified Bigfoot. But the people you talk to that have encountered these things swear, no, that's not the case. This looks like a dog. This is some kind of dog. Where are you on all of that, Al? How did you first hear about the Dogman, and what were your original thoughts?
I first heard about the Dogman on Vic Cundiff's show, Dogman Encounters. And I would listen into that, and I was telling Brian about it. And you know, my family goes back to Italy. You know, we're like our family is one of the original families of Rome and everything. And I was talking to an aunt of mine who grew up over there, and she was telling me a story. I'll tell it real quick about her family. We had family in Italy, and they were up in the Alpines. They call them. They're like the Catskill Mountains here compared to the Rocky Mountains. Okay, and this family was up there. They were sheep herders. They had sheep, you know, and so one night it was the youngest son's turn to watch the sheep, you know. So his brother gave him a stick with a rock tied to it, and he said, if anything comes around, just beat it with the rock. And the family went to go sleep in the house, and so the kids underneath this giant boulder sitting there, and he sees a shadow of a wolf from the moonlight, and he sees the sheep getting nervous and stuff, you know. So he's waiting for this wolf to come down, and the wolf is creeping down around this big rock to creep up on the sheep. And as the wolf comes around the corner, he starts beating the hell out of it with the rock. And he beats it, and he beats it, and he beats it. And he's screaming and yelling and making all kinds of noise. And the wolf runs off into the woods. And his parents and his brother come out, and they say, what happened? He said, oh, the wolf came. I had to beat him up with a stick. Now, the woman who told me the story is my 95-year-old aunt. And when she told me the story, I almost fell off my chair. And so anyway, the next day, the father goes into town and tells the constable that there's wolves out there, you know. So they put up like a little posse. They go into the woods looking for these wolves because they want to kill them. And they're following a blood trail. And they get to a cottage in the middle of the woods that nobody knew was there. And the constable says, well, let me go knock on the door because I'm, you know, the law. And maybe this person who lives in his house has a wolf as a pet, you know, and we're going to have to put this wolf down, you know. So he knocks on the door, and hand to God, I swear to God, this is a true story. I validated it with my brother and my sister who were in the house when my aunt from Italy told my 95-year-old aunt now. When they opened the door, a gentleman opened the door, and he had bandages on his head. And they asked him if he had a wolf, and he said no. And the cop told him, well, we followed a blood trail from their property to your front door. So, you know, but he beat a wolf last night. And the guy said, well, I don't know. I don't own a wolf. And he closed the door. And my relatives were so freaked out and that they went back to the house, and they sold the farm and moved to the United States because they thought that guy was a werewolf. And
werewolf's a little different than Dogman.
I know, but I never in my wildest imagination ever believed in werewolves. You know what I mean? A person turning into a wolf is a little bit much for me. But my aunt told me this story, and it just freaked me out. I couldn't believe it. These people sold their farm to get out of there because they thought the mountain was cursed. So anyway, I'm listening to Vic Cundiff and Dogman Encounters, and I got a beautiful fire pit in my backyard, and I had to sit out there at night, and I listen to podcasts, and I have a couple of cold beers around the fire. And the more I'm hearing about these Dogman, the more it's freaking me out. So I'm like, 1 minute I have no problem sitting in my backyard. The next minute I'm sitting there with my sawed-off, my pistol grip shotgun. You know what I mean? Because I'm hearing stuff walking through the woods, and it's freaking me out. So I'm calling my partner Brian. I said, "What do you think about this?" And Brian's like, "Oh, come on, you know, it's bad. You know, it's big and bad enough. You know, dealing with the Bigfoot stuff. You're not really going to go down this road." And I go, I don't know what to tell you, man. I you know, my aunt's telling me about werewolves and this, that, and the other things. It's freaking me out. So one morning, I'm on my way to work, 4:30 in the morning. I'm the only guy in the parkway. It's Monday morning, bright and early. And There's a meadow off the parkway where the deer go to graze in the morning. Okay, and as I'm coming down the parkway in my Jeep, I see two sets of yellow eyes walking out from the wood line. These eyes are like 7 feet tall. Okay, they're up about 7 feet. So I'm looking at it. Now I stopped the Jeep in the middle of the parkway and I put the window down because I got a tinted window, and I'm looking at these eyes. And I'm like, wow, must be Bigfoot, you know, and these must be some Bigfoots coming out of the woods. And then I'm thinking, you know, never seen a Bigfoot with yellow eyes, only seen them with red eyes, you know. And so anyway, I'm looking at these things, and I'm looking at these, and they're walking like, you know, bipedally, and they stop and they notice me looking at them. And they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and it's like I got sucked into a trance. They drop down to all fours, and they start running towards me. Now, as they're running towards me, I see a neck bobbing up and down, like a dog's neck when a dog runs, right? I got a German Shepherd. I know what my dog looks like when he's running, or if he's tracking something on the ground, you know? And I'm looking at these things, and they're getting closer, and I see this head bobbling, and I'm talking to myself in my head. I'm saying, these are not Bigfoots. Bigfoots don't run like this. Bigfoots have no neck, you know? This got to be something else. And then a little voice in the back of my head says, maybe you should get going, you know? Because these things are getting close. So I roll up the window, and I punch the Jeep out, and as I pull away, I hit my brakes, like just tap the brakes so the brake lights would go on, just to see if they were running after me down the parkway, you know? And when I did that, I could see them both stop dead on a dime, and their heads went like this, like they caught scent of something, and they took off running north up the parkway.
Now, were they on two legs or four?
They went from two legs when they came out of the wood line, and they dropped down to all four, okay? And then when they caught the scent of something, I guess the deer or whatever they caught the scent of, they ran off on all fours like a dog, okay? And the whole way I'm driving to work, I'm debating what I seen. I was like, I'm thinking, these were definitely not Bigfoots. These must have been Dogman. I mean, I've heard enough experiences now on Vic's show about the yellow eyes and the way the neck moves up and down when they run, when they're on all four, and all of this stuff. And so I'm debating on even telling Brian. So anyway, I call Brian, and I say, during the day, I call him and I say, dude, you're not going to believe what I think I seen today, you know? So I explained to him what I seen, and he says, you got to go back. He goes, you got to go back, and you got to research all of that stuff there. And I'm like, Brian, there's a city hall right there, and there's a junior high school right there, and I know this area like the back of my hand because my kids went to those schools, and I go, there's not a lot of woods over there. It's just a small patch of woods. And he's like, you have to go back. You have to go back, okay? So I said, okay, when I get a day off, I'll go back. And that was on a Monday. Tuesday morning, when I drove by the same spot, there was a state truck there, like the New York State Environmental Protection Agency truck parked in the meadow. And I'm looking at the truck. I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but I see this truck there, and I go to work, it's there. I come home, it's there. 3 days later, the truck is still there. I don't see anybody ever by the truck. Then, like the fourth day, it changed from a New York State Environmental Protection Agency to New York State Conservation Agency. Different. So, the first one was like a little green pickup. The second one was like a little green Bronco. Okay. Again, sitting in the middle of the meadow. Never seen anybody there. And no matter when I go by, there's never anybody at this truck. So I'm telling Brian about this. I'm like, dude, something is going on because, you know, there's always I've been driving up and down this parkway for 30 years. I've never seen a conservation truck or anything in the middle of the meadow. So Brian says, you got to go back. So I go back that Sunday, and I go right over to where I seen the creatures come out from the tree line. and I measured from the tree, the base of the tree up to the top of the tree. And the state had cut the trees at the 8-foot level, the branches, so they could get underneath them with the tractors when they cut the meadow. Okay. And I figured these things are about 7 feet tall. So then I said, okay, let me go down. There's a little creek on the other side of this fence. I go down in the creek, and there's some people in down there fishing, and I'm asking them what's going on. And they say, oh, yeah, the state, whatchamacallit, they filled the trout. They filled the creek up with trout this time of the year. You know what I mean? And we're down here fishing for trout, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, all right, there's a creek here, fresh water, there's fish. So I follow the creek. I go underneath the roadway, which are like condominiums on the other side of the road, and opens up to a giant lake. And I'm looking at this lake, and I'm saying, okay, duck, geese, frogs, turtles, more fish, plenty of food here for a predator, And I'm thinking there's nothing there but town hall. So I keep going. I'm walking. The further I'm walking like I'm walking towards my house. I go another quarter of a mile, and it opens up to a giant cornfield. And I say, okay, we got corn. Corn equals deer. Deer equals predators. And I'm thinking, man, I thought I knew this place like the back of my hand. I had no idea there was this much food here for a predator,
Yeah.
And Brian's like, I told you had to go back. I told you. And I was like, man, I'm glad you forced me to go back because, I thought I knew it all, but I didn't know anything, to be honest with you,
Yeah, Al, we've actually got a couple of questions if you want to get
for it.
Those real quick. We'll get them in order. First one, Miss Tiffany asked, I've heard a lot of people say that Dogman is actually a dire wolf. Do you think that's a possibility?
No, because I never heard a dire wolf walk bipedally.
That would be my argument too.
Yeah.
I've heard that, Tiffany. I've heard that too. Dire wolves are supposed to be very, very large.
Yeah, and I looked into that, Miss Tiffany, after I had my first encounter with all kinds of wolves, and I was wondering if there could be a dire wolf population still existing, but they're just not bipedal,
Yeah. All right, I got one more from Carson, and this is one that I struggle with. The Gugway Bigfoot with a Dogman head, or Dogman with Bigfoot body. Thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I know that I don't necessarily think the Gugway has a Dogman head. I don't really consider it a dog anyway. It has more of a wolf-like head or a hyena head. But the Gugway, when I was researching Gugways, a lot of the people that I spoke to that were from down south called them bear squatches because they had a bear snout. They looked like they had a bear snout, but they had Bigfoot legs. They didn't have the canine legs.
Okay. Yeah, I had Miss Naomi Finn on last week, and the topic of Dogman came up, and something, I thought of something out of the blue. Originally, I thought that the Dogman could be a misidentified Bigfoot. What if the Dogman is a misidentified Gugway? If they talk about how aggressive Gugways are, Dogmen are supposed to be very aggressive as well. And everything I've heard, the Gugway has like a baboon snout, whereas most Bigfoot don't.
Baboon, bearish, yeah, something like that.
Could there be a connection there? Just
I don't
opinion,
think
obviously.
so. I don't think so. And the only reason why I'm gonna say no is because again it comes back to those canine legs. Every Gugway that I've ever researched or anybody I've ever interviewed regarding it always said it had Bigfoot kind of legs, like humanoid legs. No one ever said it looked like a canine kind of with haunches.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one man's opinion.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you can keep going with your encounter there. If you got another one you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So that was the very first. That was my introduction to what I believed I seen that night. Well, that morning were Dogmen, and I believe there were two of them. And I think they were there on that meadow because, like I said, there are always deer there early in the morning grazing, and I think they were just happened to be hunting. Then I talked about that investigation what we did on Halloween, where we got bluff charged by a dog man, not knowing it was a dog man, thinking it was a Sasquatch that was bluff charging us. But I did get a picture of what I seen, what was behind the wall. I did send it to Wayne. He's got that photograph. I don't know if he's going to put it up or not, but you can definitely see a snout on the other side of the wall. It was squared off like a pit bull kind of snout with pointy ears, like they were cropped, and eye shine too, and the snow sniffing us over the wall. So that was my second in running with a dog man. And I gotta be brutally honest, thank God we didn't see what was on the other side of that wall, because we probably all would have died of heart attacks. But later on, 6 months later, I know, and I discussed this the last time I was on too, I was being drawn back to the swamp at where we found the den, and we seen I don't know if I sent you that photograph. I think I did. We seen the dog man that had the wolf-like head, the big canine head. I mean, it was just absolutely humongous. And next to that one was the one that I believe Buff charged us, that had the hyena snout that was snarling at us. And then, that night came and went. And months later, it was a couple of months later. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was early October. We were sleeping in our room, and, guy like me who grew up in the city, I lived on the first floor when I lived in the city. We didn't open our windows that night. We didn't, because you open the window at night, someone's going to come in, So I never opened my windows at night. When we moved downstairs, we were upstairs on the second floor. The kids got older. We could separate bedrooms. We moved downstairs. And one night, it was a warm fall night. Again, it must have been around early October, early November, maybe. And we had the window open, which is something I never do. But that night I left the window open, and we're laying in bed sleeping. And I got my cat sleeping between me and my wife. And I don't know, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, I pop up out of bed, and I feel like there's something on the other side of the wall. Now, the wall that I sleep up against faces the backyard, okay? And I feel like there's something there. I mean, the cat jumps up. She does straight out of it. She jumps straight up, and she runs upstairs underneath the kid's bed. And she sounds like a herd of elephants going up the steps, and she weighs like 9 pounds. So I'm looking at the wall, and I do this all the time. I felt the wall. Like, I feel like there's something there. So I lean over, and I'm looking out the bedroom window into the backyard, which is pitch black. You can't see anything out the screen. And I got goosebumps from my head to my toes. I got goosebumps. And I get the feeling there's something out there. And I say, okay. And I could have sworn I heard something sniff, like to get my scent. And at that point, I said, okay, let me shut the window. I shut the window, locked up. I always kept the pistol grip shotgun by the side of the bed. I grabbed my shotgun, and I'm walking towards the back. I'm walking through the living room to get to the kitchen to go to the sliding glass doors, put the floodlights on in the backyard to see what's out there. Because that's the kind of guy I am. If I think somebody's on my property or something doesn't feel right, I'm going to go out and see what's not right. I don't want to be surprised when I'm asleep, So as I'm walking out the bedroom with the pistol grip shotgun, I hear a little voice in my head say, don't do this. Don't go out there. Don't put those lights on, because you're not going to like what you see. So I do something which is totally out of the norm for me. I turn around, I go back to bed, I put the gun back, and I go to sleep. This is not me by any stretch of my imagination. I don't know why I do this, but I do it. And the next morning, I got up, I go to work. I come home. Now, we had just laid new line down, well lines to the house, from the well. So the lawn was ripped up. It was a lot of just dirt, So I don't know if I sent you the photograph of the bedroom window with the claw marks. I walked over in the back and I said, you know what? Let me see if I can see if there are any tracks on that dirt, fresh dirt. And when I went into the backyard, there in the dirt underneath the window, because the line run basically right underneath my bedroom window, right to the pump, because our water pump is in the basement, and right underneath the bedroom there are three claw marks underneath the bedroom window. Like, yeah, I was here, and I was like, oh wow, this is crazy, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, what's going on? Why is this thing coming to my, because every fiber of my being told me what was out there. I knew when I touched that wall was out there. It wasn't a squatch, and I don't know. It was just, I was like, what? And so then I'm talking to Brian, and Brian's like, what's going on here, right? And I'm like, I think so. And he goes, what do you think's going on, Al? And I go, I think because I was drawn back to its den. Something pulled me back to its den, that it followed me home. It's like, okay, you know where I live. Now I know where you live. Now, this creature's den is not that far from my house, and you could probably get there through the woods without ever crossing any main roads, So again, I call Brian. I tell Brian what's going on. Brian says, that's crazy. Why didn't you go out into the backyard? I said, I don't know. It was like everything, I'm that guy. I walk towards danger. You know what I mean? I got to make sure that if something's going to get in, it's got to get through me. I'm not going to leave my family home, sitting ducks, and that's just the way my father brought me up, You got to protect your family. If you got to die for your family, you got to die for your family, but you protect your family. So, I tell Brian, and Brian's like freaking out. I'm showing him the claw marks underneath the picture, the window, the bedroom window, and all this stuff, and he's freaking out. So then a couple of weeks go by, and it's getting colder, and I'm going out in the mornings to start the car again, because I get up 4:30 in the morning. I want to get the car warmed up before I get in it. And we were having issues with wild packs of dogs running through the neighborhood, tearing up the garbages and stuff. Okay. So I started going out with a little pocket knife, like a 4-inch, 6-inch pocket knife, and a can of pepper spray. Because I figured if the dogs come after me, I'm taking one of them with me. I'm not going to be a statistic on a government chart. You know what I mean? I'm not going out there at 4 o'clock in the morning and getting mauled by a pack of wild dogs. So I go out to start the car, and that particular day, all the cars were in the driveway. It was like my daughter's car, my wife's car, my son's car, and then my car. So my car was the furthest away from the garage, furthest away from the deck. And as I came down the front steps, the sensor lights went on, and then I get in, and I just had a feeling that there was something behind me, but I didn't know what it was. So I start the car up, let the car run, and the car's running. And as I start to walk back towards the house to go back inside to get my coffee and everything ready to go to work, I go like this, like underneath the sensor lights. I'm blocking my eyes. I see like a shadow underneath the deck. And I just had a new retaining wall built and everything. And I'm like, what's under my deck? And I was like, oh no, this is no good. You know what I mean? Could be, I don't know, maybe some homeless guy stumbled in, is sleeping underneath my deck. And I got my wife's car here, my daughter's car. So flip open the knife, take out the pepper spray, and I start walking towards this shadow under my deck. I pass my son's car, pass my wife's car, and I'm just at the front of my daughter's car. So I'm a car length away from the deck. And again, the little voice in my head says, you should stop right there. It's not safe for you to go any further. And I'm like, and again, I stop. Again, this is totally out of the ordinary for me. So I turn around and I go inside. Oh no, earlier that morning when I got up, I opened up the sliding glass door. We had an outside cat called Callie. Again, this cat is 7 pounds soaking wet. I opened up the sliding glass door 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, and I feed Callie. That's what we do every morning. Close the door up and lock it down. My sliding glass door, because I'm from the city, has 3 different locks on it, right? You know, because when we moved up here to the country, there's no street lights, there's no nothing, there's no sidewalks. It's dark, you know? And so we weren't used to that, my wife and I. So I open up the sliding glass, so I feed Callie. As I'm walking towards the shadow under the deck, Callie is coming around the front to do her business in my wife's garden because we got all this nice fresh mulch there, you know. And as she turns the corner, she sees something under the deck, and she does like a Halloween cat. She jumps straight up in the air, and she runs off into the woods as fast as she can. And I swear to God, for like a 7-pound cat, it sounds like a bulldozer going through the woods. She couldn't get away fast enough. And that stopped me in my tracks. Like, whoa, what the hell just happened? You know, like what did she see? Because I can't see it. I just see a shadow. So as I'm getting closer, I'm seeing the largest canine head you ever seen. It was not a dog. If it was anything, it was wolf-like. It was huge. It looked like the one in the den, a really big canine head. And as I got closer, I started to notice that it had a mane over its shoulders and down its chest. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm getting close. I'm getting pretty close to it now. Now I'm like just passing the front door of my daughter's car. And she had a 4-door car, but I mean, I'm still getting pretty close. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking at it. And then I said, okay, you know what? I got to stop right here. And I start to back out slowly. And I back out slowly, and I walk into the house, and I lock the door behind me. And now I'm thinking, what am I doing here? Am I getting a gun? Am I going back outside? Am I going to war with this thing? Should I wake up my son and my son-in-law? And this way we can go out there with three high-powered rifles. And I said, but I've heard enough stories on Vic's show that if you go to war with these things, it doesn't end well for you. And I'm debating with myself, what am I doing? And I said, you know what? I'm not going to go to war with this thing. I'm going to just leave it alone. But on the way out the front door, I grabbed my tactical flashlight and I hit underneath the deck to see what was under there. Now there's nothing under the deck. I go under the deck, and this thing had pissed all over my retaining wall and into my driveway, into the water drain into the driveway. And it stinks like pneumonia, and it's oily, and it's slick. And it's just, I'm like, what the hell? I was pissed because I just had this brand new retaining wall put up, and this thing pissed all over my wall, you know? And I know this is a sign of territory, you know? He's telling me this is his territory. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, you know? And I get in the car. I said, you know what? My son-in-law's here. My son is here. Everybody knows where the guns are. Everybody knows where the ammunition is. Something goes down, they got the women covered. I get in the car and I drive to work. I call Brian and I tell him what happened. And Brian's freaking out. He's like, dude, you got to be kidding me. Came to your house. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this thing was underneath my front deck. It had the biggest head you ever seen. Now, I didn't see any eye shine. I didn't see any teeth. I didn't see any hands. But what I seen was a huge thing, like bent over, but you can see the mane. So I get to work. I work an hour away from home, an hour and change away from home. I get to work. I get there early. I like to get there early to unwind for the ride, have a cup of coffee, read the paper, chill out. I get to work. My wife calls me up, hysterical. I go, what's going on? She's like, was in the kitchen with my son Nick. She was in the kitchen with Nick, and I went to open the sliding glass door to feed Callie. And I was like, what are you feeding Callie again for? I fed her at 4:30, you know? But that's the way my wife says, she's a feeder, right? So she goes, but the whole door fell out of the frame. If my son wasn't there to catch it, it would have crushed my wife. So I said, okay, just close the door, lock it back up. I'm off tomorrow. I'll take the whole thing out of the wall and I'll reset it, you know? So I'm thinking, when I was in the front of the house looking at the urine on the wall, it went around the back and tried to pop the sliding glass door off the track, but it couldn't because of all the locks I got on the door, you know. And once I unlocked the door fell out of the track. But so I had to reset everything, and I was like, you know, I couldn't believe that happened. I was like, man, I went back to the area of the den, not the actual den, but close enough. And I just said, out into the woods, out into the universe, I said, listen, I got it. You know where I live. I know where you live. I won't come to your house anymore. You don't come to mine. I don't want to deal with you anymore. I'm not dealing with this, you know? And that was the third time, the third time I had the Dogman encounter. And like I said, man,
Al, real quick, one that took the lake, Tiffany asked, you believe it's marking its territory, probably?
Absolutely. I believe that's what it was. I think it was trying to tell me that he was the alpha and not me. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, because I don't know now if this thing is going to keep coming back or not. That's why I made it a point to go back to his area, not exactly to where the den was, you know what I mean? But to his area, and let them and talk to the woods, talk to the universe, and say, listen, I got the message loud and clear. I won't come to your house. You don't come to mine. I know where you live. You know where I live. I got it loud and clear, you know?
Yeah.
Because the next thing would have been going to war with the creature, you know what I mean? And who wants to deal with that?
Yeah. Al, I mentioned last week we had Miss Naoma Thin on, and we got off talking about Bigfoot, or not Bigfoot, Dogman, toward the end of the show. And she talked about, it's pretty well-known thing that there are 7 types of Dogman. Would you agree with that, or have you heard something different?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how many types there are. I've only seen one type, you know what I mean? I know people have described different types, and I know they have classifications for these creatures. And the same thing, I think, for the Dogman too. They have 7 different types of Dogman. I don't know. I'll be brutally honest. I don't know.
Okay. Because she sent me a picture, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up here, of the 7 type. We tried to get it up last week while she was on the live show, and it's just too hectic, wasn't able to. But she sent it, and I'm going to pop it up here. Do any of those look familiar?
Yes. The hyena one looks like the one that Bluff charged us, and the one to the right of it, I can't really see what variant that is. Variant 3, I think it says. That looked like the one that was underneath my front deck.
Oh, wow.
At least from what I could see, you know what I mean.
So you think you saw 2 different ones at your house?
No, I seen the hyena one was the one that Bluff charged us at the lake that night, where we were by its den. And I say that because the photograph, I believe I sent it to you. The photograph, the snout is squared off, you know, and it had pointy ears like a pit bull that's ears have been cropped and stuff. So and when we seen it in the den with the other one, it looked like just like that. See how that thing is growling, the hyena one?
Yeah.
That's what it looked like when we were filming them in the den. That's what it was doing. It was not happy that we had found the den, and it was growling at us.
I'll tell you what, man, that's nightmare fuel right there, looking at something like that.
Yeah, well, like I said, if we would have seen it, what was actually bluff charging us, we probably would have died of a heart attack. You know what I mean? I made everybody stand their ground because I thought it was a Bigfoot, and I just figured it was a bluff charge, like bears do. But if I would have seen that thing on the other side of the wall, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah. Yeah, that first one up there that says top 3 variant 1, that looks kind of apish to me. What do you think? And also the top 3 variant 3 kind of looks apish.
Yeah, the type 3 variant 3 looks more like a Sasquatch to me than anything else. The other one looks like the first one, variant 3, type 3 variant 1, kind of looks like almost the canine variant variant 1 below, only standing up. You know what I mean? If you would put that one down on all fours, it would look a lot like the first one on the bottom. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder, I'll go ahead and take this down. How people come up with that. Is there someone out there that's seen all of these? Do you think there's anyone out there that's seen them all?
I think there are a lot of people out there that are having sightings of different creatures all over the United States. Just like regular dog breeds, there's like 100 different dog breeds. There could be 100 different breeds of this creature as well. And the same thing with the Bigfoots. If you look at the primate family, there's like 100 different kind of primates. There could be 100 different kind of Bigfoots as well. I know a lot of people have seen the Bigfoots as far with the round heads, without the conical head, just round. Looks like more like a caveman kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the only ones I've ever seen were the ones except for that one I sent you the picture of, that looks like it's got like a giant head and a goatee. You know what I mean? You remember that picture I sent you?
Yeah. You sent me a lot of pictures out, and I wasn't able to get them on, but I will share those.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So I mean, but like I said, I seen the one that I got the photograph of. I seen in the photograph. I didn't see him up close and personal like the skunk ape down in Florida. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't know it was there until after somebody found. I didn't even find it in my photograph. Someone else found it and sent it to me. And the same thing with the Dogman. I didn't know the Dogman was in that photo, because I'll tell you the truth. We waited maybe 3 minutes after the creature bluff charged us and nothing came over the wall. And we jumped over that wall. And we went to the edge of that ridge and looked down into the swamp, and we didn't see anything there. We didn't hear it leave. We never heard anything leave. It must have creeped back down the ridge and into the swamp, but we didn't hear it leave. And we were hearing stuff walking around all night because of all the leaf litter from the fall, and we didn't hear that thing leave, man. And so, I mean, I'm just thankful that I didn't see it that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tiffany's
got a question for you.
Absolutely.
Right. Do you think, like Bigfoot, that their look differs based on location? That's a good question.
Yeah, I do. I think there are different types. Depending on where they are across the country, but I say that, but I also think that those different types may be all over the country. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess the answer is yes and no.
Yeah, because you hear about with Bigfoot out the Pacific Northwest, you think Patty. How Patty looks, the Patterson Gimlin film, and then down here in the South, where I'm at, and closer to Florida, they tend to be a little bit smaller and more aggressive. I've heard. I mean, I don't know. But
no, the one I seen wasn't small, but he was aggressive.
By no means small, but smaller than the ones out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The photograph I have of the big guy underneath the tree watching us, if his head is any indication of how big he is, then he must have been bigger than the one I seen down in Florida. And like I said, I've seen a bunch of them. I've seen them sunning themselves. And most of the ones I see they look black from a distance, but when you get closer to them or the light shines on them, they all have like a reddish tint to their hair or whatever, and they're all seem to be, at least the ones I've seen up here. The white one I seen up here was again, but he was down in a ditch and he was leaning over onto a tree because he was getting ready to cross the parkway. He looked to be at least 7-8 feet tall. The one I seen sunning himself on the rock, I thought he was small from the distance I was at, because I figured if he was big, he would take up the whole rock, cover. But when Brian and I went up to the rock to look at it, the rock was humongous. So I was like, no, this thing must have been bigger than I thought, because it was, even as big as this rock is, he covered 3/4 of it, So they're big up here. Like I had someone from the Pacific Northwest, friend of mine, came here one time, and he was up in the Adirondacks, and he did like a helicopter tour, and he said, man, I hear you hear New York, you think of Manhattan, right? He said, when I first time I seen the Adirondacks, he said, to me, it looks just like the Pacific Northwest. He goes, I can't believe how much, how wooded New York State is. I go, yeah, the Adirondacks is like 4 million acres or something like that. It's ridiculous, So, and it's all mountaintops, and it goes up like, thousands of feet up, So, yeah. I mean, it's just, if you was to look at the Adirondacks from the sky, it would look exactly at the Pacific Northwest, And I'm sure there are plenty of places between here and there, like down south, that if you go and you look at all these mountains and everything with all these wood and everything, it all looks, like a mountainous range, like the Pacific Northwest as well, like the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, and when you think of the state of Georgia down here in the South, you think Atlanta. Atlanta's one of the bigger cities in the country, but it blew me away when I heard something like 70% of the state of Georgia is forested. It's forest, it's woods. So how much of this country is actually forested that we don't get to see? We don't step foot into those areas. You mean to tell me that something can't be hiding and living out in all of these places?
Yeah, I had that number at one point. I want to say like 70. It's either 70 or 700 million acres of the United States as far as I had that number at one time somewhere in one of my research pads. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know.
It's a ridiculous number. It's so huge.
We were supposed to have Lisa on tonight, our producer, and that would be something that's going to be something we can do in the future, is we'll have her to jump on and look that up for us real quick. Something like that, like how many acres is uninhabited in the United States. So.
Yeah, I think I pulled up. I went to the forestry and I looked up United States forestry. You know what I mean? How many? And it said I want to say either 70 million or 700 million. Like I said, the number was humongous, and when you hear that number and how big those numbers are, and everybody thinks there's no woods left in the United States because of the big cities.
Yeah,
man. And this country itself is like 90% covered in woods. You know what I mean? Just the United States. Never mind once you get up to Canada or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's crazy. It's a crazy number. I used to have that number off the top of my head because I always wanted to do, because I had the number to the Adirondacks, which I believe are 4 million acres, and I'm in the southern tier of the Catskill Mountain Range, and the Catskill Mountain Range just the Catskill Mountain Range, which is considered a small range compared to the Adirondacks, is like 500,000 acres. You know what I mean? So,
Got my buddy Flat Rock here. Says Alabama has approximately 23 million acres of forest, which is about 69% of the state's area, and more than 93% is privately owned. There's all kind of room for these things to be hiding.
Oh yeah, no, there's room for these things and a lot of other things as well. Because I've seen other things as well. On the Parkway at 4:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? I've seen a rake out there one time, and again, I thought I was hallucinating when I seen it. When I seen the white Sasquatch, I can't tell you how many times I went back to that same location to look, just to not only double check, but triple and quadruple check, because, your brain can't comprehend what you're seeing, what your eyes are seeing when you see these things. It really can't, because they're not supposed to be out there. You
see what Tiffany's put up here?
What she put up?
1.9 billion acres.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I told you it's a big number, man. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. So there's stuff out there. Yeah, there's stuff out there.
Thank you for that, Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany. Absolutely. So I mean, are these things out there? Yes. And like I tell everybody, when you go out into the woods, squatching, or if you want to go research a Dogman, which I would recommend you not do. I don't research the Dogman. I got the Dogman sign up behind me, but we just take reports now. You know what I mean? Because I don't want any more of them coming to my house. And but it's just, I tell people all the time, when you go into the woods, protect yourself spiritually and protect yourself physically, because you don't know what you're going to encounter when you're in the woods, and when I'm out there scouting out new locations and I see families hiking through the woods and the mother and father are on the phone and the kids are running off 100 feet ahead of them, and they're not paying any attention. It's not my place to tell people how to raise their children, but man, you go around one of those turns and those kids are gone. What are you going to do? Or you go around one of those turns and you come across a mountain lion or a hungry black bear. You know what I mean? A black bears up here are 6 feet tall, 500 pounds. You run across one of them when they just wake up in the spring and they're starving. It could be dinner, There's no doubt about it. And we got mountain lions up here, and we got wolves up here, and of course the forestry department says no, there's no such thing. But we get them on. My son-in-law got him on game trail, his game cameras, where he goes, hunting, deer hunting. He's got him on his game cam. You know what I mean? So they're here.
Yeah. All right. That's some really, really good advice there, Al, and a good spot to end it. We've gone over an hour. So before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find you and all that stuff.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm mostly on Facebook, the Bronxville Paranormal Society, the Facebook group, the Facebook page, the New York State Dogman Project, the New York State Sasquatch Organization, and the New York State UFO Project as well. And that's where I am. If you have any questions and you want to get a hold of me, you can contact me on Messenger. I'll be more than happy to answer anything you have. I'm pretty easy, accessible kind of guy.
Yeah, I will attest to that. Al always responds quickly, and he's easy to get a hold of. Just a really good guy and a great guest. I appreciate you coming on again, Al.
No, wait till you hear what happened to us, me and Brian, when he tells you about his Dogman story, his experience. It was our experience, but I'll let him tell it, because he really enjoys telling that one.
Okay. All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Appreciate it coming on again, and have a good night, bud.
Good night.
All right, folks, there you go. There you have it. Another one down. Mr. Owl. Another good episode as always. Want to thank everyone for spending the time with us tonight, hanging out. Special thank you to Miss Tiffany for all of your help tonight, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Real quick, before I get out of here, I should have done this at the beginning of the show, and hopefully she won't be too mad at me. I want to wish a early happy anniversary to my beautiful wife, Miss Jordan. It's not our marriage or wedding anniversary. Tomorrow will be 7 years ago that we started dating. So we were together for 5 years before we got married. So we hung on to that original anniversary. So happy anniversary. I love you very much. Thank you for all that you do for me and for our family. All right, guys, another one done. Let's get out of here. Thank you again to everyone. Y'all be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. And we'll catch you later.